What's up, folks? Lee Snyder here to break down the three-match EPL slate on Saturday morning. So, although it's only 3 games, the bright side here is that all 3 of these matches kick off at the same time, and this is something that we have rarely seen, especially on Saturday slates for the EPL this season. So that'll be really nice. Makes things easier. We're going to get all the lineups an hour before lock and be able to build our lineup. So it is a slate that I am definitely looking forward to. Now, if you played EPL earlier this week on the slate with City, then things are going to feel very familiar here. And that's because City are once again massive favorites. And then we have 2 other matches that are honestly not too exciting for DFS purposes. So to quickly run through the matches before I start talking about specific plays here, City are at home against Sheffield. They are minus 750 here. To give you a little context, when they are away to West Brom earlier in the week, they were minus 550. Of course, they ended up winning that game 5-0. City are playing really well right now, and that's even without Kevin De Bruyne and Aguero. But in a match where they get to take on Sheffield, who is actually lower in the table, they're at the very bottom than West Brom. City are in a great spot to just smash here again. Yes, Sheffield did just beat Manchester United earlier in the week, but I think that was more of an aberration. That doesn't mean a whole lot to me. This is a spot where I once again want to stack nearly as many City players as I can without completely punting at the 2 or 3 other roster spots I have to fill from other teams. And just a reminder, on Classic Slates, we do need to roster players from 3 different teams. So I do once again believe that rostering 5 to 6 City players is going to be the optimal build here. They are priced up a little bit more than they were earlier in the week, so getting 6 might be a little difficult, but I absolutely think you can get 4 or 5 City players and still build a great balanced lineup overall. So in terms of going through each position here, I've got my projections over here. So we can just start with the midfield. I've got my top 5 projected players at each position. And as you're going to see, midfield is pretty thin on this slate. When you see guys like Ruben Neves and Rodri coming up as the 4th and 5th highest projected at the position, you know it's pretty thin. Really, the 2 guys that I want to target are either Phil Foden or Gundogan from Manchester City. I don't think that you're going to end up playing both of them in the same lineup. Maybe in GPP, that could be a way to differentiate. But if we're talking cash or optimal, you're probably only going to take one of them. Phil Foden is the primary set piece taker for City right now. Although he was one of maybe the only City guy that did not get in on the scoring earlier in the week. He is probably the safest City play in terms of production. He was pulled off at the 51st minute in that match, but that was just to give him a rest, I think. Manchester City were already up 4-0 at the time. There was really no reason to keep him in the game. So I find it highly unlikely that Foden comes off that early again. And if he does come off that early, then it's very, very likely that he was involved in a goal or an assist, which would probably give him enough production. Gundogan's floor is not as high, but this guy is in incredible form right now. He's been scoring a lot of goals, so no problem actually playing Gundogan over Foden if that allows you to get 2 of the higher priced City forwards. And I think that raises an important point. With Kevin De Bruyne and Aguero out, the biggest takeaway I had from watching City last match was that there really are no set positions. It's a very fluid attack they have. When City have the ball, guys are all over the field. So I almost think that the optimal strategy is to just take the cheaper City pieces and get as many of them as you can. I think the best example would be João Cancelo, a fullback for City. Even though he's technically a fullback, if you watch that match, he was, as involved in the attack as Mahrez or Sterling or Foden. He was right up there in the opponent's box, getting a ton of touches. So because positions don't matter as much, I don't think there is as much reason to pay up for City guys as there normally would be. I am going to lean towards just taking the lower priced attackers and getting as many of them as I can in my lineup. So anyway, that would be one justification for playing Gundogan over Foden, but Foden would still be my top play from City in terms of guaranteed production here. The one other midfield play that I would mention that I think is a good value on this slate, because we're going to have to find some value under 3.5K to fit in on all these pieces from City. And yeah, I think Loftus-Cheek is a great play from Fulham. It's a really talented player on loan from Chelsea. He was kind of having a slow start to the season, but he's finally consistently getting 9 minutes, and you're getting really nice floor production there, 5.5 plus points, and at only 3.4K. We love to see that. And I honestly think that Fulham are a significantly better team than West Brom, even though both of these teams just came up from the Championship. Fulham are fairly productive for a lower table team and have a much better defense than West Brom. So I think Loftus-Cheek is a really good play to consider for cash builds to open up some salary. All right, moving on to the forward position. Top projected player is from City, Mahrez, no surprise. But then the second guy that comes up is Neto from Wolves. He takes most of their set pieces and is really their key player now, especially with Jimenez out. Lookman from Fulham also projects very well, and I think that comes back to West Brom just not having a very good defense, and I do expect Fulham to have more of the ball in that game. Then another City player, Sterling. He is a little pricey here at 9.8K. Don't mind Sterling, but I'm not sure that it's necessary to pay that much for him, especially when you could have a player like you could get Gabby Jesus start at 6.8K. Bernardo Silva only 7.2K. Torres, who hasn't played much, could start at 7.3K, and he's finally forward eligible. He was only midfield eligible for quite a while. So I'm not sure that you need to pay up here. I would love to play Mahrez, but I'm happy to play Torres, Silva, and Jesus if they're all in, just to get that exposure to City. And finally, Zaha comes in at the bottom there, the fifth highest projected forward. Not someone I'm targeting, but I think he does make a good GPP play. And then finally at the defender position, Kenny Tete is actually projecting as the highest defender for me. And I think that's because he's probably going to cross the ball a ton against this West Brom defense. That being said, Cancelo is going to be the first defender into my cash or optimal build, because essentially you're really getting another City forward if you think about it. But he's only 6.4K, and you get the potential clean sheet bonus. And City have over a 50% probability of getting a clean sheet in this match at home against Sheffield. City's offense has been great, but their defense has actually been even better. I think they've only allowed 1 goal in the last 7 matches, which is just ridiculous. So Cancelo starts with a 50% chance of better of getting you a 3-point clean sheet bonus, and then he's going to be every bit as involved in the attack as the forwards I talked about. So I love him as a play. He'll be the first one into my lineup. Zinchenko did take some corners when Foden went out, which was really interesting last match. So if for whatever reason Foden does not start, I think Zinchenko would be an awesome play. He does not even land in the top 5, but nonetheless. And then filling out the rest of my top projected defenders is Joe Bryan from Fulham, who probably will not start, and that's because Anthony Robinson, the American, is returning from suspension. He's a great play, and you get a 1K discount from Kenny Tete, so I do like that. And then a Wolves defender, Out Nawari, comes in there in the 5th spot. And I think both he and Semedo, who's at 5.1K, those are 2 good options to consider, especially since we need to roster players from 3 teams. So for me, that will probably end up being City, Fulham, and Wolves, and it'll be 5 or 6 City players. I think the question really becomes, do you want to play 3 defenders and get a Wolves and Fulham player in that way? And if we're just looking at the value, I think playing 3 defenders does make a ton of sense. But I think an argument can also be made for paying up for Neto. Although I'm not sure that's optimal, because spending that type of salary on a non-City player, given City's matchup, does kind of reduce your potential upside. You are maybe getting a bit safer floor from Neto, just because he's probably going to play 90 minutes, while some of the City guys could be substituted early. But for me, I rather spend my salary on a guy like Foden or Mahrez over Neto. Even if their floors are lower, they just have that higher upside. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Quick one. I always forget to say this at the beginning, but if you made it this far and you enjoy the content, please do subscribe to the channel. That is the best way to support me, and it is much appreciated. Also, any questions, comments you have, leave them below. I'm happy to structure these videos however you guys find most helpful, whether that's focusing more so on the matches or the specific plays, or actually going through the entire player pool for each position, which is kind of what I leaned more towards in this video. So anyway, let me know. Appreciate the feedback. Happy to tailor the videos however you guys find most helpful. All right, good luck on the slate on Saturday. Should be a good one. I'll see you guys next time.